Today in the Sound Seat, we welcome Nick Argyros, a multi-talent who has left his mark in both the creative and tech worlds, and he's started as a drummer in iconic South African bands like Seether and 16 Stitch. Nick has toured internationally and worked with legendary producers, honing a unique perspective on creativity and collaboration. Now as the founder and CEO of GotBot, one of Africa's top AI startups, Nick is transforming how businesses engagement with customers through innovative AI-driven solutions. With a portfolio that also includes ventures like INJOZI and Audio Militia, Nick has become a driving force in combining cutting-edge technology with artistic ingenuity. Join us as we dive into Nick's fascinating journey from the stage to the boardroom, exploring how his passion for music and innovation has shaped his entrepreneurial vision and the future of AI in business. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks, Kath. Lovely seeing you again.
Lovely to see you too.
Long time no see.
Always long time. And nice to be in this setting.
Yes, it is.
Yes, welcome. I'm going to get straight into it and ask, do you think there are parallels between composing music and designing AI-driven solutions?
You got some tough questions there. I do think there are parallels. I think when you look at music, right, you're working with different kind of layers and instruments. You're also looking at how you structure everything and format everything so everything works kind of in one kind of cohesive environment. So I think there's also a lot of experimentation, both in music and in business. And I think all of those kind of formats together, you start finding, a route through that works for those like instruments or people in a business, and eventually I think you hit some type of cadence where, especially when you've got someone that's like, a very talented guitarist doing what they do best, which is like shredding or whatever it is, and you get someone that's excellent at sales and you get them to do that really well, they just start hitting a cadence and everything starts falling into place, and I think things start happening more naturally then. I think the same as in music and in business. I think those coincide and follow each other quite nicely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what inspired you to launch GotBot, and how did your previous ventures prepare you for GotBot?
Nothing prepared me for GotBot, let's be honest. GotBot was a true experiment. And what I mean by that is we started off, for instance, in INJOZI as just a service business, right? So you're working every hour. And then in Audio Militia, I discovered that basically you're a licensing business where you're licensing IP and kind of servicing that. And then I thought to myself, I wonder if I could like switch that around and create a business that's predominantly licensing based, which is a software as a service type model where you're licensing your IP out and then kind of servicing that. So it was just moving through everything and trying to find a different business model than just selling hours, which I found very frustrating, to be honest. Where music, you can actually license music and get paid for that over a period of time. But, a campaign only lives for so long and then it's shut off. Where, again, with a software as a service business, if I could sell that license for an extended period of time, our longest standing client now is Toyota, and they've been with us for almost 8 years, as long as the business has been around, which is amazing to have that. So that was like the core difference.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're learning still as you go along.
Every day.
And GotBot was named one of Africa's top 10 startups in 2017. What do you think set it apart from competitors?
What set us apart at that point was our ambition to try and get the NLP right and make it sound, like it's actually like a person. And since then we've realized, don't do that.
Yeah.
People need to know that they're speaking to a bot and when they're speaking to a person. But I think the things that really kind of set us apart is that we're already starting to do text to text and text to speech.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in 2017 going and doing a conference and pretty much talking to a bot and having it answer back to me, which was really cool. And then I think the adoption of bots and natural language processing into something like WhatsApp, we were one of the very, very early adopters in that space, and I think that helped set us apart for a fair bit of time, and now that's become like a super popular thing to do, and now kind of anyone and everyone can do it, you know? So I think we're definitely on the forefront doing that early on.
Brilliant. And how do you see AI transforming industries in South Africa and globally in the next decade?
Wow. AI is definitely a game changer, right? It's definitely here to stay. It's not going anywhere. What surprised me the most actually was how generative AI came out and went for or went into sectors that I didn't actually think it would work in. So what we saw it was in the natural language space, you know, and chatbots and so on. Then we saw it enter into the audio space, and then also into the visual side of things. And that I thought would be the things that it would touch last, right? I thought it would go into, you know, customer service and call center solutions early on, which it did, but it hasn't kind of like penetrated as deeply as I thought it would be. But I do think it's going to change everything for everyone. I also don't think people should be afraid of it. I think people should, you know, take it on board, learn as much as they can about it, and see how it can actually help them do their jobs a lot better. But I do think if you look at the Ricky Rick project, for instance, that was a great use of technology for something that was really, really creative, and a very simple creative idea that it executed, you know, so well. So I think if people leverage that part of it, I think ideas will be kind of all the better for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, chatting about the Ricky Rick project, and I mean, you won multiple awards for that, and it was for something that was a really, really good scenario.
Yeah, for good.
It was for good, and generally a lot of the stuff that people do, this is just for gain in essence. I wanted to ask, do you think there is anything that can beat that project when it comes to AI? Because everybody wants to dabble in it. Yeah. But we did this amazing thing where we replicated someone that had passed their voice for the greater good.
Yes.
Do you think that there is something?
I mean, there are some ideas that are coming out now. I mean, we've got clients that call us, like, you know, all the time to try and see how they can leverage AI. But I think the beauty about that Ricky Rick project was truly in its simplicity.
Yeah.
The fact that we just took tweets and Instagram posts and threaded that into a song and then brought Ricky's voice back to life, I think was like the genius of the idea. It was super simple, and the impact it had, I think, was amazing, right? Where they created a foundation. It was all about artivism and activism for mental health and things like that. And I really think they put it out for a great cause, and I think his legacy lives on in such a fantastic way because of that very simple idea. But I think we're going to also see people starting to stretch what we can do. When you see what's happening with deep fakes and things like that, I think it's going to be very interesting, the ideas that people come up with. Thank goodness most creative people look at it in terms of what they can do for good. And then you've got all the bad guys out there seeing how they can leverage it for bad. There's this, I won't say a use case, but there was this thing that happened in the States where they'd cloned a CFO's voice. They'd put that up into Zoom, into a meeting, and basically told one of the guys to pay a $25 million check. And they did it. And it was all fake, you know. So you can bring someone, you know, back and institute that voice for good, and then you can also do the exact opposite to steal money.
Totally. So it's taking those bad emails where your long lost cousin has left you a whole bunch of money, but like in the most realistic way.
Absolutely.
And sadly, I think it's going to be an older generation that gets massively targeted.
Yes.
So on that, I wanted to know what ethical considerations are the most critical when developing AI solutions for business.
So, I mean, get into it from a music portion of it.
Yeah.
Like the top 200 musicians in the world have signed an open letter to Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI. The point being that when you see these guys being interviewed, they just went and took everyone's music to teach the model everything. So I think that's massively wrong. So number one is the protection of IP and people's intellectual property, and not kind of pushing that to a point where you're putting everyone at a disadvantage, because there's been no advantage for any of the musicians whose music was basically stolen to put into a model to make music, right? So you've got that. Then you've also got likeness as well. Not only is the music stolen, but it could be someone's likeness, or they've inputted their voice, things like that I think are really, really wrong. Elon Musk said something. He said, AI is one of the things that we've got to be proactive about in terms of legislation, and not reactive about. And I completely agree with him. When you look at some of those interviews with the CTO of OpenAI, she openly admits that they just trained it on data that was available on YouTube.
Yeah.
So everyone put it out there for a certain purpose, and then they've taken that and just used it against everyone. Adobe basically tried to put something out there. When you design something on one of their platforms, that then belongs to them, and they can use it as training data, and signing everything off in all these terms and conditions, which I think is just not right.
Yeah.
So I think those are things that really need to be spoken about. Everyone needs to know what their rights are, and everyone should fight for their rights, especially when it forms part of their IP or themselves as an artist, because that's just being taken away and it's actually stripped from them to better a model.
Yeah.
And
do you think there is a massive difference in the AI learning from artists and a human being doing exactly the same?
Yeah.
They're coming up with their own concept of what they've been
Yes.
listening to, or what they've perhaps been seeing in the
Yes.
art world, etc. What is the
It's a great
actual
question.
difference there?
Sure. So I'll tell you what I think it is.
Yeah.
So B.B. King famously once said that nothing's original anymore. Everything's borrowed, and you just make it your own. The difference is that, Kath, you read a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. How many of those books that you've read could you recite, like page by page, or even a quote? Like, could you just randomly bring up and use that as a source?
I could barely remember my son's birthday this morning, so I'm going to say barely anything.
Very little,
Yes, yeah.
right? So when you look at a model, a machine learning model, or one of these AI models, they can, in a split second, pick up about 200,000 books and everything in it.
Yeah.
That's the difference, is you can't recall everything so quickly. So it's a bit unfair to put a human being up against the computer that can access tons and tons and gigabytes of information in split seconds, right? And I think that's the difference. We're inspired, right? And on the other side, this is recalled, and then the generative AI portion of it just spits everything out from the 200,000 books
Right.
and all that data into something, and to make something original out of it. Okay. I think human beings have a completely different take on things. We can be inspired, but our style and the way we put things out are also very different. Where if you look at what some of these models, these generative AI models output, you can see exactly where that's from, because the AI doesn't have a voice or a tone or anything that it colors, that expression with. It's just regurgitated, reformatted, and spat out.
Yeah. And it's also missing then that human collaboration between perhaps the creative director on an ad or someone that's like asking for specific things.
Yeah. And that's how I see it. It's really just a data play.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. And how do you ensure that AI remains a tool for enhancing human potential rather than replacing it?
I think the way you do it is is number one, just get involved. Don't be scared, right?
Yeah.
Also heard someone once say that you shouldn't be afraid of AI taking your job. You should be afraid of people using AI. They're the ones that are going to take your job, right? There are obviously very low-level jobs that will be taken immediately, right? So just like data capture, you don't really need that. You've got something now called agentic AI, which is something that you can teach an AI model to do something and then actually use different programs, and it will think about how to solve a problem. That's kind of scary, especially for a data capture, for instance, right? But in the end, when you look at how people are actually using AI, they use it for efficiency and nothing else. When you see Sam Altman speak about everything, that's what ChatGPT is actually used for. It's used to make us hyper efficient.
Yeah.
Obviously, all of that training data is going to go back in, and they're going to be able to exercise other models and so on. But I think you have to stay ahead of the game, get involved, use it, understand it. And once you understand it, you'll probably be like, oh, this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
But I can't see it being able to almost be as multimodal as we think it's going to be. And what I mean by that is changing from text to speech to music to X, Y, and Z, where people interchange very, very quickly between all of those things. I mean, you can see, hear, smell things, and that would change how you would approach a project, for instance, right? So I think those types of things influence the way people react and the way they'll actually go forward in their industry and so on. But it's definitely here to stay, and I would say, like, use it sooner rather than later.
In your own business environment,
yes.
other than like projects that are coming in, how is it enhancing your life?
So I use a couple of them. For instance, I use Perplexity to do all my research. It's great because it actually it scours the internet, and then it tells you where that source is from, and then I can divulge and look into it and see if that's a good source of truth, right? I'm not going to take Fox News's input as something that I'm probably going to listen to. I'm probably not. They're not even a news outlet, right? They're actually an entertainment business. I know that, so I won't use it. Then I love the fact that things like Claude, it has something called Sonnet 3.5 in it, and that's actually helped me develop a couple of things myself.
Okay.
It's got a preview mode, so I don't know how to write any code, but I know how to do a product requirements document, a feature document, feed that into it. Then I ask it to be my CTO and actually code it. And we've built a whole bunch of things that we actually use at work, like our project boards and all of that we've developed ourselves with the use of an AI, which I think is really, really cool. ChatGPT being multimodal, I'll often say to it, listen, have a look at these stats and give me a graph.
Yeah.
Because I'm no good at Excel, but I know that we can create those types of graphs. So I feed that into it. I've often even fed it things to create images for campaigns and things like that. Can you believe it? Sometimes GotBot can't afford its sister company, so I've now got to find cheaper or more efficient ways around things as a startup. And a lot of our campaigns and so on will go out and just utilize that. And then I used Sora the other day. I mean, Garrick helped me put that all together, but I created a little 10-second animation for GotBot, just welcoming everyone back, telling them what we do, and went for it from there, so very cool, in terms of how quickly you can do things.
And is it not like information overload? Because there are so many different platforms. So how are you navigating that just to make sure that there's just not like this overload of information?
Kath, it is an overload of information. I mean, I've got a platform that now tells me, in each sector, what type of bots there are and what you can use them for and all of this type of stuff. So it is an overload. I've used a lot of platforms that just aren't very good. as well. So it's a bit of trial and error and going through, you know, your discovery phase with a platform to see, can it do it, you know? Often you got to put your credit card details and go, oh, this failed miserably, type them and say, listen, this isn't what I want, and kind of move on from there. But it's a lot of digging and a lot of understanding in terms of what models do what things really well. Again, Claude is great at coding. You know, ChatGPT writes extremely well. Having said that, large language models and AI also hallucinates. It's there just to give you information. And if it doesn't know, it often just makes it up, right? And just goes, here you go. It's like a little kid, you know, it's just trying to please you, a really smart intern that's just coming to you all the time and going, look what I did, look what I did. And then you've got to look at it and go like, that's great, that is false, that does not work, you know, and so you've got to vet it all. So I think as you learn to use everything, just don't take it all in as gospel, right?
Yes.
Take it in, understand it, and make it your own.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you'll find like the true efficiency or power of it.
And that's where you find the intelligent people sort of like get ahead rather than the less intelligent people.
Yes.
Because I mean, it's like that in general.
Yeah.
You know, you'll see something on TikTok, etc., and it's up to you to go and do some proper research into making sure that it's correct.
Absolutely. I'll tell you where it's helped me massively.
Yeah.
I never used to post anything, right?
Okay.
I'm dyslexic. I don't write particularly well. And like when I wanted to do stuff, I was like, wow, I've actually got like a QC, my own QC. So now I've started posting a little bit more because I can actually rely on it to spell correctly and use the right grammar, you know, which is something that I wasn't good at.
I've noticed.
Thank you. You know, and I've tried really hard, you know. But the thing is, at the end of the day, I found there was a hole, right? And AI basically helped me fill that hole and has given me like a little bit more confidence now when I write and so on, you know, or just want to put something out that I don't have to read it 3 times and go like, does that sound right?
Yes.
Because I'm not a copywriter, right? I can speak and do all that, but I'm no good with words. Really.
That's amazing. Last question. Looking back at your career, what would you tell your younger self starting out as a drummer and innovator?
I'd probably tell myself to relax a little bit because I was very impatient. You know, I heard this thing once, and this guy basically said, it's amazing what a person, like people completely overestimate what they can do in a year, but they completely underestimate what they can do in 10.
Yeah.
You know, so if you can build on that and kind of have that compound interest of your experiences and all the knowledge that you've gained from different people in different sectors just compound over time, it's amazing what you can do in 10 years. And what I see from people often is that they go somewhere and then they give up after like 2 years. I've always thought like 4 years is this weird marker where you actually have learnt enough and you've got the depth and the understanding of how the business actually works. And that's when you can compound all your knowledge into something that's greater than yourselves, you know? I think people move on too quickly and they don't double down into the position that they've had to truly get all of those insights to kind of push them forward. This hop, skip, and a jump thing I don't think works.
Well, now you've got AI that hop and skips and jumps for you.
For us, right?
Like you can do everything immediately.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, Nick, thank you so much. I feel like you're your own ChatGPT because the amount of quotes and this person said this is like mind-blowing. So you like have it all already inside your own brain.
Yes.
That you're spitting it out. But we're very, very excited to see all of the AI projects that you're coming up with, that you're working with in the future. And we'll definitely have you back in the sound seat to tell us about more projects that are coming up. But thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.